Hey everybody, it's Kristen. I have a horrible question to ask you today. Why is shame so hard to deal with? I know I'm not the only one, and I've had a breakthrough with regard to dealing with shame lately, and I have to share it with you because if I can save you a little time, if you can piggyback on my breakthrough and have a breakthrough of your own about this really frustrating, difficult topic, then it's going to be worth your time. And it's going to be worth my time to tell you about it because I have been working on this issue my whole life. I'm going to be 70 years old on my birthday this year, and I'm going to be a different person than all the other women that had birthdays before, all of them. Something radical has happened to me, and I want you to know about it because I hope that if you need this breakthrough, that I can help you get it for yourself. So, we were talking last Monday about the doubt loop, and the doubt loop is very important. It is really on the backbone of the whole thing that causes us to age faster than I think we need to. And so here's the connection with that. Um, I want to tell you how I experienced this breakthrough. I've known for a long time. I've remembered my whole life that I grew up in a very shaming environment. My dad, he wanted me to be a good person, and he thought the way to make me a good person would be to shame me often. And very loudly, shame on you. I mean, I must have heard that, I don't know, thousands of times in the 18 years that I lived with my dad. And I'll be honest with you, that shaming was a very negative experience for me. It created this heaviness in my chest that just as years went by, it just got worse and worse. But listen, the way that I was being raised, I didn't I didn't know that it didn't need to be that way. I didn't know that there was anything wrong with that. I just I just learned to live with this heavy-hearted kind of feeling. And it made my life really so much more difficult than it needed to be. As I look back on it now, and a lot of us are raised with this kind of shaming, so it's not that this is an unfamiliar pattern. And many children that are exuberant and joy-filled when they're 2 and 3 and 4, that starts to disappear. The older they get, the more that they've been shamed, the more that they've been punished, the more that they have been told you're a disappointment, you're a bad girl, you're naughty. This begins to crush the spirit. It crushes the connection to the sense of self that we were born with. An infant does not hesitate to express its needs and its wants. Babies cry. They cry when they're unhappy because they're hungry. They cry when they're physically uncomfortable and they need their diaper changed, and they don't hesitate. I mean, that's the thing about dealing with an infant, right? Is when there's a problem and you are motivated to fix it. You help them because you love your children, your babies. I know when I was a young mother, this Dr. Spock idea that I was raised on, that you put your baby to bed and let him cry it out. This did not work for me. Now, I don't want to get into a bunch of parenting stuff, but what is relevant here is that when a child is raised in a shaming environment, it begins to really build these neural pathways in their brain that leads to self-doubt. Because when you can't trust your natural instincts to move you forward into the world, then these neural pathways that say, wait, stop, think about this. Are you doing the right thing? Are you going to get in trouble with this? Or if you know you're doing the wrong thing, then you're like trying to hide and become furtive and secretive. And all of this stuff forms these pathways in your brain that become more and more ingrained the older you grow. And then, of course, teenagers, we all know that they know everything, and that the rules that you try to set up to make sure that they even live through their teenage years, they fight you every step of the way. And man, it's really hard then. I mean, my grandchildren are in that phase right now, and I watch my daughter and her husband struggling with these things, and it's so clear how this doubt loop gets set up. It's just, I'm not sure that it would even be avoidable, but what is avoidable is being unconscious about it so that you live in with its walls around you. Because that's what I discovered. That's the big breakthrough for me is that I've been living in what I'm now calling a shame prison. It was so much a pattern of the way that I saw myself in my life. I didn't think about it. I didn't name it that way. It was just this heavy feeling that life was hard and things tended to not go my way. And even when I had celebrations and victories, they were mitigated by this feeling of doubt that was always coming through. And what if this wasn't good enough? What if I should have done that better? Should I start over? Is this the right thing to do? And it's very hard to live a joyful, living flame kind of life that I have really been talking about lately, that I hope you can resonate with, that when you're radically alive, you're not assailed by doubts all the time. So that's the message of this newsletter. It's it was brutal, this need to be more and do more and have more and everything about more, 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 and this feeling that nothing I did, nothing I said, no way that I could be would ever be enough because there was no enough. There's no enough in the doubt loop. No matter how far you go to assuage the doubt, there's always, well, one more thing. I could try this, or I could do that, or I could read this, or I could get another certification, or I could buy a bigger house or a better car. You know, it's endless what the brain will do to tell you that you need more because you're not enough the way you are. And underneath that is the shame prison. And that's what I'm hoping to give you the key to let yourself out of yours if you find that you're living in one the way that I did. My dad has been dead for 30 years, friends. And I have lived in that shame prison the whole time. He built that thing when I was a little kid and I didn't know it and I'd lived inside of it. Even after he was no longer shaming me, which he, took that was his mission in life for the whole time until he passed away. He was making me make sure that I was felt like I wasn't good enough and nothing I did was good enough. And that was my shame prison. And he that did not die when he did. And that's why this is so important for you to know this. So there's a science behind these things. I've already been telling you about the neural pathways. And that is the foundation of the whole thing. The brain is trying to protect us from all these bad feelings and shame being, nobody wants to feel that. So the brain will set up these neural pathways and give you the doubt to try to avoid the shame, right? You see how like vicious this is? You don't want to feel ashamed, but you're living in a shame prison. And so this doubt is this thought that if I have more, do more, be more, am more, that maybe I won't have so much of that shame feeling anymore. And that it doesn't get rid of it. It just, one feeds the other, and these neural pathways, they get stronger and stronger. But science has given us reason to hope. 90-year-old people have been discovered to be still building neural pathways in their brains. The brain does not stop this. However, we do need good self-care and we do need good physical practices to help it out because in order to build this particular BDNF, this protein that I'm thinking about, the brain does that best in meditation. That's the time when it's very highly creating this stuff. Exercise is another time when it's very actively creating this protein. And what was the third one? Oh, fasting. That's really interesting. I don't know how many of you have been looking at this intermittent fasting idea, but I try to go 12 to 16 hours with no food because when the body is not working on digesting, then the brain can be building this protein that it needs. And so this protein will go in and help make these highways even faster and better. And we talked about that last time. There's this material called myelin. It's like the plastic that covers your electrical cords. So the electricity goes through the metal, the copper in the wire, but that's wrapped in plastic so that you can't be harmed when you touch the cord. Otherwise, you'd get shocked every time you touch an electrical cord. Well, your brain doesn't want that either, so it coats these things in this stuff called myelin, and that makes the highways work really well. But that works against us when we're working with this doubt loop because the doubt loop works so well. It's hard to interrupt it. But the great news is our brains will grow these new, healthier pathways. And the more you use the healthy ones and disuse the unhealthy ones, they kind of, I don't, it's like when something isn't used, it atrophies in the body. And that's why you want to keep your muscles strong so they don't atrophy. Well, the brain is the same way. If you wanted a new neural pathway to form, which we do, we want our youthing pathways to form, then we need to disuse the doubt loop as much as possible. And that's what today's practice about is how to interrupt that doubt loop and say, no, we're not doing that right now. And also, the other thing that is really becoming foundational to the youthing work is to learn how to send your body back into the sympathetic nervous system running the show because it's the one where the healing and the regeneration and the revitalization occurs. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. But modern life has put us in this sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, or even worse than that, the freeze. The freeze is you age the fastest when you get frozen. So if you're frozen with fear and terror a lot, you know that you're aging faster than you need to because the mechanisms that restore and revitalize and build you up are not allowed to come online when you're in that frozen state or when you're in that fight or flight state. You don't want to live in anger and bitterness and resentment, and you don't want to live in fear and terror and horror. You want to live in love, right? And joy and peace and patience and grace and gentleness and kindness. Those are the feelings that open up this central parasympathetic system that keeps you calm. And when your body is not in a state of emergency, it does these good things for you. So that's taken some sort of complex science and trying to make it simpler. So in sharp contrast to the way that I'd have typically lived my life, which is in this doubt loop, there have been some very notable times in my life where I was not doubtful at all. And one of those I talked about last week when I was trying to get my mother pain medication at the hospital. Another time that came to mind to share this week is about when my daughter was in the hospital. When she was 4 years old, she was hospitalized for a few days. And I really wouldn't leave her side hardly at all for those 4 days. And if I did, another family member would take my place because I just felt that as wonderful as hospitals are and how much people, how much gratitude we owe the people that work in hospitals, they are run by human beings and they make mistakes. And so the need to just sort of keep the eye out, not in a judgy or accusatory way, but in the way of an advocate is very important. And when I was advocating for my daughter, I didn't hesitate. When something seemed off or not right, like they were waking her up every few hours. And I finally would talk to the doctor. I said, do they have to wake her up that often all night long? Now, I understood the first night she was in there, she came in emergency status. But these other nights, did they really? And, he was like, well, maybe we don't have to check her blood pressure every hour. I'm thinking, thank you. I don't know if you've been through that, but this was the part of my knowing that said, I need my daughter to recover. She needs to sleep. She doesn't need her blood pressure checked every hour. We have established already that there's a stability that's going on now. And so it was in a situation like that where I was not second guessing myself. This other part of me, which I think is the love part, was giving me direction about what was working and what was not working in my daughter's care, and what did I think needed to happen. And I was very, very happy when they let her go home, because I really felt like I would be doing a much better job. Not that I'm perfect, not that I don't make mistakes, but I didn't have, a whole floor full of people to pay attention to. I had her, and she and I had already been together for the 4 years of her life outside and another 9 months when she lived inside me, and we were very closely bonded, and I trusted myself to care for her and take good care of her. So this is the counterpoint. There are times when your doubt loop will totally be overridden by something that's much more powerful. And for the most part, I think that the energy that overrides the doubt loop is love. It's the connection to God, to nature, to the source energy that beats your heart and breathes your breath. We're not in charge of those things. Why not? Because we're not, because we're human and we're fallible. So our lives are lived by the systems that breathe our heart and beat our heart and breathe our breath. And we trust those. You don't put, breathe on your to-do list. Well, maybe a few of us do that are really focused on conscious breathing. But we don't have to. Let me put it that way. We don't have to put breathing on our to-do list. We don't have to put heart beating on our to-do list. We're going to be doing those things. So we trust. And in that sense, that trusting is already built into our biology. So why does the doubt loop get so strong? Because we have inadvertently trained ourselves to disconnect from this loving loop. I mean, it is a loving loop. It's just so much more than just your brain. It's the loop of us to the divine and back down. And this is trustworthy, friends. This is trustworthy. And this is the whole point of today's work, is to re-examine the power of the doubt loop and to just begin to establish a sense of connection with which what I think we should call the trust loop. I think it really works here. So let's do a little practice. If you're driving, of course, you want to maybe put this off until later. I do think it's helpful if you can close your eyes. So if that's not appropriate, then just turn this off now and do the practice when it is more appropriate. So I want you to start by thinking about a time, maybe something that happened in the last week, where you did feel some doubt. You hesitated. You were second guessing yourself. You held back. It's like, it's not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. It's not time. I probably need to do this. I probably need to do that. Listen to that voice. I'll be quiet a moment. See if you can hear that voice. I'm hoping you did. Now ask yourself, well, whose voice was that? Who was talking there? I noticed that when I started listening, that voice, it actually didn't sound like me. It sounded like my dad. That was my dad's voice that was running in there. And, like I told you, he's been gone 30 years. That voice carried on for 30 years without any physical reinforcement from him. And you may find something similar in your discovery. Ask yourself, whose voice is that? Now, put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. Isn't it nice how steady, how reliable that heartbeat is? And that's there. It's like the ocean tide, when you go to the ocean, it's so relaxing. I think it's because it's a little bit like our heartbeat. It's just very regular. It's consistent. It's reliable. It's something trustworthy. The ocean is trustworthy. It's going to be doing its ocean thing forever. And your heartbeat is trustworthy. Now, addressing that voice, just say out loud or silently to yourself, that voice isn't mine. This isn't me. So notice what's happening in your body right now. Feel that warmth under your hand. How settling that feels. That's your nervous system. It's shifting. It's shifting into this parasympathetic system that's where the revitalization and regeneration and healing and soothing and calming, all that takes place in this atmosphere of safety and trust. Let it fill you up. Notice how it can fill you up if you just let yourself be filled. Now think of something that you've been wanting to do that you've been hesitating about. Just name that thing for yourself. Something that the old voice has been causing you to doubt and hold back and procrastinate and delay and wait and hesitate. Just name this thing that you want to do. See it getting done. Imagine it getting done. Maybe you move down the path to getting it done and you make a mistake and you learn something and you continue on. It's no big deal. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. You're allowed to learn how to do this thing that you want to do. Just see yourself moving through this process of doing and learning and doing and learning, and then imagining it being accomplished and feel that satisfaction. Feel how great that feels. And just know that that's the process of self-trust. Not that you're perfect, not that you never make mistakes, but that as you learn and grow and learn and grow, you get to the goals that you have set for yourself. You accomplish the mission that you want to achieve. And that's exciting. And that's what makes life wonderful. So open your eyes. And if it's possible, take some step today toward that thing. Even if it's just writing it down and writing, I can do this underneath it. That beginning is everything. So let's wrap this up. The luminaries that are interested in the living flame work are people who recognize that this disconnection from the flame, from the vital spark of your life force, is a very important connection. And luminaries are people that begin to prioritize feeding the flame and fanning the spark and cultivating this aliveness in their physical bodies, not just in your mind, not just in your emotions, but actually in your physical body. And you begin to align your actions and your choices with this sense of connection with yourself. And this is the living flame life. This is radical aliveness. This is living radically alive. That's what I want for you. So please leave a comment below and tell me what about all of this has really sparked your aliveness? What is it that, what doubts are you going to leave behind? And how are you going to deal with the doubt loop? Are you just going to put your foot down and say, no, we're not doing this? And then just taking yourself into the other loops. I'm moving ahead. I'm doing the best I can. If I need to learn something, I'll learn it. If I make a mistake, I'll grow from it and start again. Nothing is going to stop me from moving ahead on my dreams, my mission, my purposes. That's the gift I want to give you today. I hope you receive it. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.